Hi, everybody. I am so happy to be here with you today for Naptime Nuggets number 53. What? Why is Naptime Nuggets happening today? Well, it's happening because I got a little fired up about something I saw on Facebook this week. And it's actually come up many times over the last, I would say, couple of years as I'm working with childcare providers and parents. I work thousands a year, and they come up after and they'll say, "What about?" And a big thing that's been coming up a lot lately is disrespect. That kids today are very disrespectful in a different way than they've ever been before. Can you guys relate to this? Welcome. I'm glad that you're here for Naptime Nuggets number 53. So today we are going to do the first part of a 3-session series on respect, something a lot of people are worried about today. And so what happened is basically I sent out this email to my email list about this gentle, kind parenting and how some cultures do it and have kids that behave really well. And then I saw on Facebook this physician who says kids today are more disrespectful than ever. And he recounts that in 29, 30 years of practice, he has never seen so much disrespect. And he talks about a child who's 10 years old looking at his iPad or phone the entire visit. And when his mom tries to talk to him about the stomach issue her son is having, the son says, shut your mouth, mom. You don't know anything. And the mom doesn't say anything back. So this is his example of how kids today have totally fallen apart and they're so disrespectful. So, but he's not alone. A lot of people have told me that kids today are acting out in really defiant ways, and they're kind of out of control more than they have been in the past. So, and when I have a problem with that is when people start blaming the adults who are caring for them. And I'll tell you why. Because there is a lot of reasons why young people are disrespectful. And this is not something new. So we can think, oh, today is a miracle day where everything is different than it was in the past. But if you go on Google, not kidding, and you type in complaints of parents historically or complaints of adults historically about youth, you will find the exact same complaints even back in the 1600s. They say kids are out of control today. They're disrespectful to adults. So this is not a new issue. Why isn't it a new issue? Because there's reasons that young kids are disrespectful, and it's part of it's in their wiring. So I'm not saying adults don't have an impact. They absolutely do. And we're going to give today, you're going to walk away with one really great strategy for teaching kids to be respectful. No question, it needs to happen. But what I want you to do is think about what's behind it. So think about, why are you disrespectful? I know in general you're not disrespectful, but sometimes you are. When would it be? You might not even know it. So if I'm in immersed in another culture, like let's say I'm visiting another country, I might be disrespectful and not even aware because the customs are different there. So in some cultures, if you go like this, for example, like come here, that's very disrespectful. Other cultures, if you show them the bottom of your shoe, it's very disrespectful. So disrespect changes depending on who you're around. So we have to be really clear on what disrespect actually is and what it looks like. But let's talk about why it is that young kids are disrespectful. So first of all, and this is something you might not know that might surprise you. Did you know media can make kids more disrespectful? Yes, media. Even, I read this recently in Nurture Shock, crazy, even PBS, the media that's specifically designed to build social skills in young children, increase kids' disrespectful behaviors. What? How could media do that? Even the good media. Well, the reason is because let's say you have Arthur or Daniel the tiger, and they're being disrespectful to each other, or they're being disrespectful to adults. And then something happens throughout the show that in the end, the conclusion is they shouldn't have been disrespectful. Well, what happens is when the researchers looked at media, they saw that kids were actually seeing 6 to 8 or even 10 negative acts to that one positive resolution. So that 4-year-old, when they see kids being rude to other kids and bullying other kids, they don't really remember the outcome as much as the 6, 7 times that the bullies had these negative behaviors, that those negative behaviors are being reinforced. So even good media can get in the way. And I remember my daughter watched Arthur, the one on fears, and it made her scared because all the kids were talking about their fears. Yes, in the end, the Arthur episode was about not having fear, but it increased her fear. So the same thing is happening when kids are watching more media. You may have also seen that as kids increase media, they care less about connecting with adults around them. So getting media out of the way maybe is going to be part of this picture, but don't blame the adults, blame the media. The only time we're going to look at the adults is they're exposing their kids to media, right? So the more kids watch media, the more disrespectful behaviors they have because that's what they're seeing. So they end up doing what they see. So that's one reason is media. Another reason, when do you act disrespectful? I act disrespectful when I'm stressed. So when kids are under a lot of pressure, when all day long they're in school and expected to do things they don't want to do and stop doing things they do want to do, after a while, they start to get grumpy about it. They're just like us. They need control. They need to say for themselves. So when adults are bossing them around, telling them what to do, it gets under their skin after a while. And yeah, they want to stand up for themselves. They want to speak up. So disrespect happens as kids get more and more stressed and they start to get self-control fatigue. So that's one reason. But I want you to know about something that we've known for years. Erik Erikson, starting in the earlier 1900s, started studying young kids and how they socially develop. And he identified stages that all kids go through. And so I'm going to share with you a couple of them that impact disrespect. Are you ready for this? One of them, when kids are between 1 and 3 years old, they start to go into this stage of autonomy. They really need to say for themselves. They want to say what they wear, what they eat, when they use the toilet. They really need to have some power and control. And if adults step in and try and squash that, they need to wear exactly what the adult thinks they should wear, then kids start to get the sense of doubt and they doubt their abilities. We don't want that. We don't want that lower self-esteem. We want kids to have that autonomy and that strength. We just want them to do it in a respectful way. So we're going to get there. How do we teach them that respect then? Second stage, you might have noticed as a lot of people complain about the 3 to 6-year-old stage. Absolutely. This is when they start to get this sense of initiative. I need to be an important part of this picture. This is why they love to do chores and do better if they're given chores. They need to say for themselves. They want to speak up. They want to look smart. They want to be the boss. They want to direct behavior. That's those 3 to 6-year-olds. So as we start to try and squash it down, like, no, I say you're not the boss. I'm the boss. They start to get disrespectful because they're fighting back against something that's going against their nature. So as we give them more chores and let them have more of a say in their world, the disrespectful behaviors start to melt away. So the next one is as they get a little older, 6 years old at puberty, they have a sense of industry. And then if they don't get to have that, like, I can do it, I'm capable, that's when they start to have that inferiority. And so a lot of the disrespect comes from a sense of needing autonomy, having a sense of initiative, and having a sense of industry, which is normal development. So you can blame adults, but the reality is a lot of disrespectful behavior comes naturally and always has. Hundreds of years ago, they talked about the exact same types of behavior that kids have today. And it comes out of that natural either development, their stress, or exposure to media. So all those things can play in whether they're disrespectful or not. So here I am. I have my 3-year-old and she really wants something in the kitchen and I keep telling her no. And finally she says, "You idiot." I grabbed her, I set her on the stairs and I said, "Don't you ever say that again." What? Now, a lot of people are saying, good for you. You stood up to her and you showed her who's boss. Well, yeah, but also what I did is when she tried to say for herself, when she tried to stick up for herself, I squashed her in a very violent, hold her right in her face way. So maybe some of you are like, oh yeah, that's what we want to do, because then even if you look at her, she's going to just behave in the future. But is that what I really want? Don't I want her to stand up to adults if they're telling her to do something that's not right? Don't I want that sense of I'm going to say for myself when it comes to working on a difficult project or needing to stand up to our peers? So here we are. We have natural development, we have stress, we have media, we have these reasons they're doing it, but we still need them to learn how to respect us. So I'm going to give you one top tool today, and it's to develop a respect meter. A meter, like, one that tells us beep, 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 we're getting stressed out. We need to take a break and take a deep breath. That's our stress meter. I want you to have a disrespect meter. So as you go about your next week, just observe in your environment. Why do I want you to do this? Look for disrespect and identify it. The reason is because the top absolute reason that kids are showing disrespect is they haven't learned how to respectfully speak up for themselves. They haven't learned what disrespect looks like. So for the next week, I charge you, teach them, talk about the respect meter. What does respect look like? Okay, so if I'm talking to you and a child comes up and puts their hands on my face, like, look at me, look at me, look at me, is that respectful? And I'm going to just ask myself that question right in front of the 3 or 4-year-old. Oh, I was right in the middle of talking to this person. Did that feel respectful when you just got right in my face and turned my face? Nope, that wasn't respectful. If a child says, I don't want to do that, you can say, ooh, my respect meter is kind of getting a little aggravated right now. How could you say that where it doesn't make me feel like, ooh, that's a bulldozer? That feels really disrespectful. Let's see how we could say that. Maybe you could ask me, can I ask you something? Or you could say, I don't want to do that right now, with a lower voice and not so intense. So you're going to have your stress meter going, like, sorry, your respect meter going, and be on the lookout for respectful behaviors and disrespectful behaviors. When you see them doing something respectful, like they ask their friend, can I have a turn, please? Go, whoa, did you hear that? That sounded really respectful. So then what will happen is over time, these young children will start to get to know even what the word means and what behaviors are disrespectful and which ones really are respectful. But it won't be I'm going to squash you. I don't want you to ever speak up for yourself. It's going to be I want you to speak up for yourself, but let's search for ways that you can do it respectfully. Sound good? So I hope you share this, like my YouTube page, and guess what we're going to do next week? I know you're wondering, but what about adults? Because you've seen it. Some adults do things that increase disrespect in children. It's true. Sometimes we are to blame. I'm not going to lie. So let's look at what kind of caregiving really stands out as helping kids learn respectful behavior. That's what I'm going to look at next week. So I'm going to look at caregiving and parenting styles and which ones increase disrespect or decrease disrespect. And so in that article that made me so grumpy, what he said was parents are not parenting in a way that's getting kids to be obedient. And next week, we're going to talk about this word obedience. Is obedience what respectful is about? Just, yes, okay, ma'am. Yep, I'll do whatever you say. Yes, sir. Okay, I won't ask any questions, I promise. Is that what we want? I don't think so. So let's talk next week about what kinds of caregiving and parenting can increase positive outcomes and make it so that young children develop respect for adults. They need to have respect for adults, but yet we're not squashing their independent spirit, right? We don't want to squash their spirit. We want to lift them up and help them be their best. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Thanks for liking this video. That just makes my heart swell. And it makes me want to come back week after week and support all you guys. Thank you for always sharing with me how things are going with you and tuning in, subscribing to my YouTube channel, and being on my email list, because we are more together. The more I hear from you and connect with all of you at these in-person trainings and online, the more I feel like this is all worth it. Love you guys. Take care. Keep loving up those kiddos. What you do makes a difference. Have a wonderful week. Over and out.